I'm going to start with something maybe nobody has the courage to tell you. Not every breakup means it's truly over. But not every feeling of missing her means you should go back. I know, because I've been exactly where you are right now. The silent, early morning. Phone in hand. That old conversation open. You scrolling through the messages, trying to find the exact moment everything started to fall apart. And the question hammering in your head, should I try again? Because deep down, it's not just her you miss. You miss what could have been. The house you pictured together. The trips that never happened. The lazy Sundays that felt like promises of an entire future. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Sometimes you don't miss her. You miss the idea you created of her. And there's a brutal difference between those two things. It took me a very long time to understand this. Because when a relationship ends, memory does something cruel. It erases the bad parts and leaves only the moments that hurt from nostalgia. But the question that really matters isn't, do I still love her? The question that matters is, was she the right person to build a life with, or just to live moments with? Because there are women who come into your life to grow with you. And there are women who come into your life just to pass through it. Confusing those two things is what makes many men waste years, trying to fix something that never had the structure to last. But before I go on, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Because if you've already been through a breakup, or you're going through one right now, this channel is exactly for you. Here we talk about real relationships, no romanticizing mistakes, no selling fantasies. Now let's talk about something that can completely change the way you look at your past with her. The first question you need to answer. Before even thinking about going back, you need to remember who she really was inside the relationship. Not who she seemed to be in the good moments, but who she was when real life showed up. Because real relationships don't happen in Instagram photos. They happen on ordinary days. On days when you're both tired. On days when money is tight. On days when things go wrong. And it was in those moments that I realized something about my own relationship. There were two sides to her. One side was amazing. She talked about the future, about buying a house, about building something solid together. We spent hours talking about plans. It wasn't just romance. It was real life being planned. And that kind of thing carries a lot of weight when you're thinking about going back to someone. Because when a woman shows she wants to build a life, it means she was emotionally investing in the same direction as you. And that is rare these days. Very rare. Now, there's another type of relationship. You might recognize this one too. The one where everything revolves around moments. Party on Saturday. Nice photos. Spontaneous trip. Laughter. Everything very intense. But when the conversation turns to something deeper, it just doesn't flow. Long-term plans feel like a boring topic. Responsibility becomes a burden. Commitment feels like a prison. And without realizing it, you start to understand that the relationship wasn't heading toward building anything. It was heading toward a cycle of emotional entertainment. And when that kind of relationship ends, the longing can be strong. But that doesn't mean it should come back. It just means you lost a routine of pleasure and company, not a life project. When it's really worth trying to get back together, I'm going to tell you something very few people talk about. Some relationships end because of immaturity, not because of incompatibility. And that changes everything. Sometimes both of you were still learning how to deal with ego, insecurity, expectations. Fights that seem small today, back then turned into storms. Pride spoke louder. Silence became punishment. Unanswered messages became emotional warfare. And one day, someone says enough, not because the love died, but because neither of you knew how to fix it anymore. If you look back and realize the relationship had some of these characteristics, maybe there's something valuable there. There was a foundation. Maybe you really respected each other. Maybe there was admiration. Maybe there was care in the hard moments. Maybe she really wanted to build something solid with you. If that's the case, then yes, it may be worth trying again. But there's one condition. Don't go back to relive the past. Go back to build something new. Because trying to pick up exactly where you left off almost always leads to the same ending. The same arguments, the same triggers, the same mistakes. A real fresh start means two people who have grown, who have learned, who can look at their own mistakes without blaming the other person. If that exists, then maybe there's still a story there, when it's definitely not worth going back. Now comes the part many men avoid facing. There are relationships that were never meant to last. And the proof shows up when you start looking honestly. Ask yourself, did she really want to build a life? Or did she just want to live intense emotions? Because some people feed off that. The novelty, the excitement, the emotional chaos. Those relationships are usually extremely intense in the beginning. Extremely. But they're also extremely unstable. Today, everything is perfect. Tomorrow, there's an absurd fight over something small. Then comes reconciliation. Then another crisis. And so the relationship becomes an emotional roller coaster. At first, it feels like passion, but in reality, it's instability. And an entire life cannot be built on top of instability. If your relationship always revolved around parties, nightlife, external attention, social validation, and almost never about building something lasting, then maybe the question isn't whether you should go back. Maybe the question is, why do you still feel like going back to something that was never secure? Sometimes the answer is simple. Loneliness, neediness, good memories. But none of those things is a strong enough foundation for a life. The mistake almost every man makes. When a relationship ends, most men do something dangerous. They try to go back because they're suffering. Not because they analyze the relationship clearly. And that almost always leads to the same result. You go back. For a few weeks, it feels like everything will work out. There's longing, there's affection, there's promise of change. But slowly, the same dynamics reappear. And then comes a second breakup. Only this time, it usually hurts even more. Because now, you realize you tried everything. That's why I always say something simple. Don't go back to someone just because you miss them. Only go back if there's a rational and emotional reason to build something better than before. The question that changes everything. If you want real clarity, do a simple exercise. Imagine your life 10 years from now. House, routine, responsibilities, real problems. Now, place her in that picture. Does she seem like someone who would help you face life? Or someone who would make life even harder? The answer to that question is usually brutally honest. And almost always, it was already inside you the whole time. One last thing I learned. There's a huge difference between two things. Missing someone and compatibility. Missing someone is emotional. Compatibility is structural. Missing someone makes you remember the good moments. Compatibility determines whether an entire life can be built. And when you understand that, something changes. You stop looking only at what you feel, and you start looking at the kind of future that person can actually build by your side. Some loves are intense, some are unforgettable, but only a few are made to last. And maturity begins the moment you learn to recognize that difference. If this video helped you see something that was previously confusing in your mind, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Because here we talk about relationships without fantasy, exactly the way they really are. And in the next video, I'm going to show you 3 silent signs that a woman has lost respect for you, even if she's still by your side.